Effective domestic airport security policies on minority communities, freedom of movement, and privacy. Today our moderator is going to be Dan Mack. Thank you very much.
Welcome. Thank you all for coming. Thanks to CFP for hosting this. As you just heard, I'm Dan Mack. I'm the director of the ACLU program on freedom of religion and belief, and I'll be moderating the panel discussion today. Before we start, I want to extend special thanks to the organizer of our panel, Hansdeep Singh, who you just saw. He's senior staff attorney and international civil and human rights advocate at United Six. And Hansdeep has worked tirelessly on these issues, including recently co-authoring a comprehensive global report on Sikh civil and human rights for United Six. We have a distinguished panel today gathered to address important issues of domestic airport security, privacy, and religious liberty. We had planned to cover some international issues as well, but as the panelists are largely focused on domestic issues, our discussion will have the same focus as well. We may touch on international issues, but the primary focus will be domestic. We're going to hear prepared remarks from each of our speakers, and at some point, hopefully soon, one of our speakers will arrive, and that's Representative Judy Chu. She apologizes. She is speaking at another event right now, but she's on her way, I'm told. After the prepared remarks, we'll have an exchange among the panelists, and then we'll follow it up with a Q&A. So to open our discussion, we will first hear from Kimberly Walton. And I'm just going to give a couple of sentences about each speaker. That each of us has longer bios if you want to look it up. But she is the special counselor for the Transportation Security Administration. Ms. Walton oversees several TSA offices, including the Executive Secretariat, Civil Rights and Liberties, Privacy, and Transportation Security Redress, among others. Prior to joining TSA in January 2003 and serving as the Ombudsman for TSA, she served as the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer at the Patent and Trademark Office, and before then as the Director of Civil Rights for the Department of Commerce. And I want to extend yet another special thanks to Ms. Walton here. She's sort of in the lion's den, as you probably have gathered if you've scanned the panel here. Her position may be in the minority among the panelists here, so she's walked into a potentially hostile environment, so I want to thank her for that and for appearing and speaking about these important issues with us. Thanks.
I'm happy to be here. So I should just stay here, or should I go to the podium? Okay, I'll go to the podium.
Yeah.
Well, good morning, and yeah, I do feel like I'm coming into the lion's den, but that's okay. My name is Kimberly Walton, and I am an assistant administrator at the Transportation Security Administration. So I report to the administrator, John Pistol, and our deputy administrator, Gail Rosides. I do appreciate the opportunity to be here today and to participate on the panel despite the lion's den, because I think it's important you hear the TSA perspective. I'm here to say that we at TSA protect our nation's transportation systems, and we enable the freedom of movement for people, and our policies and procedures do not have a disparate impact on travelers. Through our efforts, we have helped to restore confidence to the traveling public in safety and secure air travel. If you fly this week, you will be part of more than 2 million people passing through over 450 plus airports across the nation. TSA's goal is to ensure that none of those 2 million passengers become a victim of the tragedy like 9/11. That's our goal. The attacks on 9/11 are a living memory to all of us. We lost not only thousands of lives, but also some of our sense of security as Americans. And TSA's role is to restore that sense of security. TSA was formed in the wake of that tragedy when Congress determined that it was necessary to federalize airports. Prior to that, it was run by private contractors. As we face the 10-year anniversary of 9/11, TSA now has 50,000 employees. Approximately 40,000 of those work on the front lines at your local airports to prevent another attack. So if you think about it, we are younger than Google, but older than Facebook. Unfortunately, as TSA has advanced since 2003 when we started, those who wish to do us harm have also. For example, now that planes have reinforced and locked cockpit doors to prevent hijackings, terrorists have shifted their tactics from trying to get metallic weapons like knives and guns past security to hiding explosives on their person or in their luggage. I'm sure you remember the infamous shoe bomber. That was a non-metallic threat, and the underwear bomber. These attempted attacks showed us that the use of metal detectors and limited pat-downs were not enough to protect us. As the threat has evolved, TSA screening has evolved, and so has the technology that we use. We introduced advanced imaging technology, AIT, and a more thorough pat-down, I'm sure you've heard, to identify non-metallic threats hidden beneath clothing. The news has focused on the controversy surrounding advanced imaging technology and the pat-downs, but what the news does not report is the intel information that DHS and TSA have regarding the plans of those who wish to do us harm. The media is not reported on the TSA personnel who are discovering prohibited items every day and preventing them from making it onto a plane. News does not show the evidence we have that terrorists will use women, children, persons with disabilities, or the devices that they use, and others. They will use anything to get an explosive device through a checkpoint and onto a plane. TSA has an incredibly difficult and complex mission. We assess risk across all modes of transportation, so people think we only focus on aviation, but all modes. And we have to devise strategies to mitigate that risk. And take note of the word mitigate, because we are not in the risk elimination business. We are in the business of mitigating the risk. An analogy that our administrator, John Pistol, often used is the only way to avoid a car accident is basically not to drive. And it's similar. I mean, the only way to truly eliminate the risk in aviation is simply not to stop traveling, and that's not a real solution. So we put in place the best technology and processes that are available to us to mitigate the risk. It has taken TSA time to grow as an agency, but over the years, the men and women of TSA, our workforce, has been able to effectively carry out the counterterrorism mission that we have been handed, and we've made significant progress in strengthening transportation security. Within the aviation mode, we deploy multiple layers of risk-based, intelligence-driven security measures. As a result, a terrorist has to overcome multiple security layers in order to carry out an attack. Therefore, the attacks are likely to be preempted, deterred, or fail altogether, or they just don't attempt them. Our system is one where security begins before you travel, before you even arrive at the airport, and it continues all the way to the cockpit, providing security throughout a passenger's trip, not just at the security checkpoint. One of the significant innovations since 9/11 is the Secure Flight Program. Many are familiar with this process. You use biographical information to vet all passengers against watch lists. We're able to assess this information up to 72 hours before a flight takes off, and then every minute thereafter during the duration of the traveler's journey. Secure Flight provides us the opportunity to more effectively deploy certain resources and keep the public safe from those who we know to be a potential threat to aviation. Well, let me move to headwear. TSA has a bulky clothing policy that includes headwear. So if you've traveled through an airport and you were dressed like me, you were asked to take off your jacket. Purpose for that is the jacket or bulky clothing can hide a threat. With respect to the screening of head coverings, it is TSA's current policy that passengers who are wearing non-form-fitting headwear may, if they wish, leave such headwear in place during security screening. However, such items are subjected to further screening. This policy covers all headwear and is not directed at any one particular item or group. Of course, TSA recommends that passengers remove non-form-fitting headwear before proceeding through security checkpoints. But we recognize that passengers may be unable, unwilling, for a variety of reasons, religious, medical, and other reasons. So we have the option of not doing that. In that case, additional screening protocols are in place. After a careful review of this screening policy by Department of Homeland Security, I think most of you know TSA is a component of the Department of Homeland Security. Their Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties has determined that our screening policy for passengers wearing non-form-fitting headwear do not unlawfully discriminate against those individuals. The Constitution prohibits religious discrimination, but in this situation, the rule in question does not target members of a particular religion. The same rules governing non-form-fitting headwear apply to all travelers who choose not to take headwear off during screening, regardless of the reason. TSA sees passengers of several different religions who habitually choose not to take off non-form-fitting headwear during screenings. And other passengers may choose to retain headwear for non-religious reasons. For example, I know that we have a number of people who have religious, medical issues and they choose not to do it, or no reason at all. A person would just say that, it's a bad hair day, I'm keeping it on. The same approach applies to all of them. Additional scrutiny, which could be a pat-down, self-pat-down, electronic trace detection, or something else, whatever is necessary. In reviewing this issue, DHS has seen no evidence that the policy is motivated by religious animus of any type, and that it does pass constitutional muster. The Religious Freedom Restoration Act prohibits the federal government from substantially burdening a person's exercise of religion, even by a generally applicable law, policy, or practice, unless the government demonstrates that application of the burden to the person represents the least restrictive means of furthering a compelling government interest. So even if TSA's current policy regarding the additional screening of religious head coverings substantially burden an individual's free exercise of sincerely held religious belief, DHS's opinion, as when they reviewed it, is the current practice and the security testing that underlies that agrees at TSA that this policy is the least restrictive means available to meet the department's critical duty to ensure the security of air transport. The reason our screening policies and procedures pass muster is because they do undergo a strenuous vetting and review process within TSA and within DHS. TSA, I'm the special counselor. I have an Office of Policy that is constantly reviewing all of the procedures, and an Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties. In addition to that, the Department of Homeland Security has the equivalent office, and they also review our policies and procedures. So we have a robust internal review process, and we're always looking for the least intrusive security screening procedures to use.